Call to order. Muncie Park and Recreation Board meeting Tuesday, January 21st. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Chandra Park,
Here.
James Letton,
Here.
Mark Urban,
Here.
Shannon Powers,
Here.
Brad Marshall.
Here. Next, we've got the approval of the minutes from our last meeting. There's no comments or discussion. I would entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Got the superintendent report with Mr. Carl Malone.
Right. Good evening, Board.
Good
Good evening.
Excuse me. All righty. As far as 2025, we're just getting started to continue on what we were doing last year, which was December. Pretty much working inside and outside, depending on the weather. We were able to winterize sidewalks with salt there a couple days, but mainly we've been inside working on picnic tables, benches, minor tune-ups on some of our snow blowers, and then cleaned up in and around the shop, and then taking calls. We're still having issues with our bathrooms from time to time. I took a call last Saturday. There was a young man locked inside the bathroom. Police department called me. They tried to open the door, couldn't get the door open. I made a couple calls to some of our team members, and then we were eventually able to get in. The guy had locked himself inside and couldn't get himself out. But once we got to him, he was on a motorized handicap equipment. So how he got that inside, this is our bathroom at Heacon Park. So we've been keeping it locked and keeping it unlocked. We got rentals. It's heated. It's kind of got a little, so we think people are getting in to get in and out of the weather. Then we try to lock it back up when we don't have rentals. So it's something we've been fighting for a year or so. But we are concerned about safety. We don't want to go in with somebody having a knife, some type of weapon, because their concern is staying heat, and then they're thinking our concern is putting them out, kicking them out. So that can be a safety concern. Other than that, I'll move on. You know, we've had quite a bit of openings within our park system. The 5 years I've been here, I don't think I've ever had five openings all at one time. And so I've been spending a lot of time with Patty. Her and I have spent many days going through applications and then creating a scoring card that I like. I think is very very fair, and then being able to go back through and sit down and make a selection. So we've filled 3 of the 5 positions so far. One being with Kelly McClendon, who's been a 20-year plus employee for the city. She was selected as our working foreman, supervising, Perry Creek and of course our city parks. The 5-year plan has always called for a working foreman to be in place. That was changed. I think we talked about that maybe last month, but it was changed when this administration came in. And so I've never had an opportunity to have a working foreman within our park system. So looking forward, and speaking to Kelly, she talked about the years that she's been here, they've always had supervisors in place. And so we're hoping that we can be able to support Perry Creek as well, keep things running smoothly, and then also help police and supervise our day-to-day operation. So it's an opportunity to give it a shot and see just where we go with it. The mayor's in support of it. I think Brad has had conversation too. So I wanted to make sure the board knew that it's been always in the plans. We just never did have one. So this is the first time. So I want to thank you to Kelly, you got anything you want to say? Come on up.
Yeah, welcome, Kelly. Thank you.
I've spoken to you a few times when I was under my urban forestry position, but I just want to say thank you, and I'm excited about this new job. I'm excited to work with you, and if there's anything you need me to do, or just feel free to call me anytime, text me anytime. I'll give you my phone number before we leave today.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question? So are you 3 days, maybe Carl said this already, but 3 days on, 2 days at PCR?
I
Or
think it's like a work in progress. They want to see how it goes. It'll depend on like the season. Today's really my first day because yesterday was a holiday.
Yeah.
I went out and introduced myself to everyone, and I know Junior's on vacation right now, but I asked them a lot of questions. They asked me a lot of questions, and I think it's already a good start. So,
Okay.
Thank you.
great, thank you.
Yeah, and we've got that on some of our old business too, so we'll talk about that a little more and how what our expectations is and how we want to help support Carl and Kelly as we move forward here.
I'm excited. That's
Yep.
great.
Yep, thank you. I think we got a new opportunity to forge forward. It'll be a challenge, but I think once we put all the team members in place and we continue to have good dialogue and communication, I think that'll put us in the right situation. So we got actually 2 positions within our department we still have to continue to interview for, which would be our assistant urban forester, and then of course our program director. The mayor and I we just talked about the first quarter of our office, me and Nikki. Nikki's doing an excellent job already helping out with making phone calls to the partners, things that we got coming up upon us. For example, is the Youth Employment Fair. That was rescheduled. It was scheduled for January. I think Shannon has some involvement with that as well. And then so Nikki and I are just trying to reach out to the individuals. I've gotten a few phone calls about the new date, which is coming up February 8th and 9th at Minnetrista. So calls I've gotten is just if the program's still going to go forward and timelines of when that's going to be as far as jobs. And I think people don't want their kids to miss the opportunity to get signed up. So we want to keep reaching out to those individuals and making sure everybody's got a fair opportunity to seek employment with their young kids. So looking forward to see how that's going to work. Grants, as I know it to be, foundation is still pending, and the Musco Lighting grant is still pending. I know Shannon has had a lot of conversation and hands-on with those grants. Shannon, you might want to share a little bit of information on.
So we made it basically to the second round and final round for both of those grants. The Pacers grant would be for a new it would refurbish Heacon Park basketball court. And then it says Musco Lighting. They're part of it, but it's actually a National Parks and Recreation Association grant. And there's only 5 of them given across the nation. So hopefully, we have a shot at that. We made it to the second round and had a conversation with 2 people on their committee who wanted to know very specific questions about if we had dump trucks to be able to, they were asking if it was feasible, which I thought was a very good sign. So we'll hear from National Parks and Recreation Association on January 31st, and hopefully the Pacers will let us know soon. So.
And just to add to that, as far as I've seen some of the parks that they've done over in Indy through the Pacer Foundation, and they're very colorful. So if they give us the same blueprint, if we get lucky enough to receive, then those color coordinates would hopefully match some of the playground equipment that I've seen that we do have. The colors that I've seen so far, pretty nice, and it's a nice facelift, it's nice renovated court and artwork, and it really looks nice, the ones that I've seen in Indy. All right. Riverview, I'm going to have some conversation Monday with the mayor to kind of talk a little bit about the completion of that project, the timeline on that. There's been some changes between the contractors. And so I need to have a conversation so I can, the Whiteley Neighborhood Association is asking questions in reference to 2025. What they told their people at their neighborhood meetings that the project would be completed in 2025. So they didn't give a specific month, they just said the year. In talking with their staff and their committee, they're asking me personally a little more definite month that they can let their neighborhood is pretty active, and they meet regularly. They're pretty good at providing information. So I think it's more of an informational thing for them to be able to have different committees. And certain committees are a little more aggressive than others, and the ones that's on the playground committee, that's on the neighborhood committee, as far as that particular park, kind of want to know timelines. So I'm gonna find out Monday when I meet with the mayor in reference to where we're at and what contractor is going to be completing that project. It did change somewhere in the middle of the operation, but I don't know any more than that. That it just the contractors changed from what we started with, and so
Pride Mark?
Primark was involved, Flatland was involved, and what I've heard is just city. So I don't know if that's coming just from the mayor's desk, and or if we need to have conversation so we know what contractor to reach out to, or if there's another contractor that they're looking to complete the project. So
Is there a project manager?
I want to say Adam Leach is on the Thomas Park playground completion, so I would assume Adam. Not 100% for sure, but as I know, he's had conversation in our department head meetings, and one timeline that he did give, he spoke about, was Thomas Parks. So we got the restroom there, and then we also have a water line that was capped off, we think, when the splash pad was put in there at Thomas. And so we have to run new line from the main up to the building. So some kind of way we lost water to the main building there at Thomas Park. And so that's going to be on us. That expense is going to, because we don't know what contractor, who did what. We really don't know. So we just got to go forward. And I've already talked to Jay Bird and their individuals who do our plumbing to find out what's the closest main up by the building to run a new line to provide water to Thomas Park's building. So, and then I think that's, and then as far as the park benches, the conversation I had was with Flatland and Dave, and they were talking about putting benches in. But hopefully on Monday I'll have a definite timeline on Riverview. I know you guys all came out and had a visual of on that particular park, and so I'm sure folks out there ready to have that ready to go come early spring. So, and I think that's about it as far as the superintendent report.
Any questions for Carl on superintendent report? Carl, are you going to take care of programming report, or?
Yes, I'll speak on that.
You come up talk to us today.
Yeah, Nikki, I was going to mention that when I got up here. She's kind of really been multitasking, as I see it. She's really stepped in and kept conversation going. So at this time, I'd like to have Nikki come up and kind of talk a little bit about the programming, because she's really been involved with that quite a bit. You weren't prepared for that, all right?
We did not discuss this at all. Good evening.
Good evening.
Let's see here. Carl mentioned the Youth Employment and Resource Fair was rescheduled to February 8th and 9th. I have reached out to the partners that were already in place to ensure that those dates still work for them. So we did a little shuffling around of the schedule because Ms. Ward was not going to be available on the Sunday. So we were able to get a conference room for Saturday at Minnetrista. So the Dress for Success is going to be on Saturday now. So we're going to have the resume building workshop, which is going to be run by Ball State from 10 until, it's actually 10 until 12. And then Dress for Success is going to be in the conference room from 11 to 1. And then financial literacy is going to be run by Northwest Bank from 12 to 2. And then on Sunday, we're just going to have the entrepreneurship workshops. And on both days, we are going to have organizations on site that are going to be giving out information and resources to the youth and their parents about what programming they're going to have throughout the year. We are also going to have employers on site to take in applications for the youth who want year-round employment. Let's see here. National Kids to the Park Day is going to be on May 17th at Cannon Commons. We are still in the planning stages of it, but we know we're going to have games, bouncy houses, and music. Any vendors who are interested in participating in that can go ahead and email us at muncieparks@muncie.in.gov. And then NFL flag football registration has started on that, and we've been receiving a really good response. Carl met with Brandon on Friday about the program. We are going to take 120 players. This is our third year partnering with the NFL and 3rd and 11 to offer the flag football, and it's going to be at Ball Corp. And it will be for youth from K through 6th grade.
Okay.
We are also, what's not on here, scheduling a meeting to meet with Ben over at Northside to nail down them being our hub for the summer program again. So we just have to coordinate schedules and then have that meeting, get the contract signed, and get the insurance over to them, and then move forward with that. Any questions?
Okay, Nick. I do want to thank you, Nikki, for stepping up there and really helping out when we had a gap there in the office. You've done a great job.
All right. I'll come back up and just piggyback off of what Nikki said. So the mayor is excited about us pushing forward with the summer program. I will tell you that he's definitely invested in the summer program continue moving forward. The Muncie schools is in support as I know it. Like Nikki stated, having a meeting with Ben to talk about detailed stuff that we need to make sure we got in place. But having those partners in our community willing to provide their doors and let us in is just a bonus plus. And one of the goals for 2025 is to try to continue to expand on other partners. Ball Hospital has been very supportive as well. Want to continue to meet and build a relationship with them as well. And so it's a task. Like I say, it's going to be a new task. Not so much for me because I was involved a little bit before this administration with doing some programming under the old administration. And so just getting back into that fold a little bit, I stated to the mayor that I thought I could help out in the first quarter. And by then we should have someone narrowed down and picked to move us on forward throughout the year. So that's what I say to the program. I think it's been very valuable. The kids that we've taken in the program has been great. Last Saturday before last, I spoke at Minnetrista with Eco Rehab, met with them and their board, some of the incoming members and some of the outgoing members. We had some slideshow pictures of the work that the kids did the previous summer, which highlighted the shelters, the benches, picnic tables, some of the work that the kids did. So their group, RICO, is excited to be back on board and support them as well. And they wanted to make sure I let the board know that they were still in process of being supportive of our summer program. So it's good. It was good to hear.
Thank you, Carl.
Thank you.
Do you have any events or things for approval?
I didn't have any. No one brought any to me. Nikki, do you have any in
We'll
office?
have like 4 next month.
And then I know the one we had kind of rollover from last month was still working through the Game Bridge, Lafferty Field scheduling times?
Yes. Richard and I met and talked about it. We also talked with the young man from Sports Complex about scheduling another meeting here real soon in the coming days to discuss what you had discussed earlier about making sure both groups can sit down at the table and work out the times that field would be utilized. And so that needs to happen sooner than soon. So we did make some phone calls to reschedule that. So, in fact, I have that application on my desk table in the office to follow up tomorrow and try to make that happen.
Thank you, Carl. Any other questions for Carl? Nothing else? Next we've got the Prairie Creek report.
So I guess that's me and Tani both. I'll let her. We did have some conversations. We met a little bit out so far, but I'll let her go ahead and.
So we have a lot of changes going on. So I'm sure you'll get to meet Kelly here in a. Is it Kelly?
Yeah.
Thought so. Kelly here in a few. I met her today. Just mostly a lot of changes going on. Just working with Carl, getting ready to start the season. Don't know what that'll look like yet, but pretty optimistic. We've really just been talking about the piers and what sections we're going to change. We've been talking about doing that Bay Area still, but we're still unsure. I think that's going to get done. Seems like it might, but we're just not sure yet. It should be any time we'll know. Other than that, we're just talking about what the hiring process will look like this year, and so.
Who do you need to hire?
We'll just do a regular hiring where we hire some extra maintenance, or we might work with the parks. So it's all real different, but we'll have all the beach attendants come. We'll have the boat launch will open, so we'll have a few people down there.
Okay.
Security,
Seasonal.
yeah.
Okay.
So we'll have more meetings. We've just had a few, but
Good.
we're just trying to see what it will look like with some of the changes.
Okay. Get started on that sooner rather than
Yeah.
later.
So, other than that, we've just been getting all the leases out. Everybody should have their camp leases. Most of the boats, only ones that have not been sent out are the two sections that we're unsure about. We have like 1 to 100 that's inside the campground. We don't know if that one's going to change. So they're kind of sitting to the side to see if they are or not. And then we have the Bay Area, which is like, I think 200s, 300s. So everybody else should have theirs.
When are leases due again?
March 31st. We will take them, I believe, up until the 4th, but that will be a late fee. Once that happens, we'll start talking about doing the lottery and switch day.
Any other
And-
questions for Tawny?
Yeah, I do. What about the piers, the wooden ones? Were those removed?
Most of them were.
Okay. How about all of the other ones?
Yes, we did finally get the floating ones moved over.
Floating.
They are tied down in a spot. Before we were able to get them all tied down because we were lacking some equipment and we're working on some new training, and we started realizing that we needed to work on some safety issues before we were able to get them all moved. So that caused them to not be tied down for like a week or two, and one had started to float away. It caused one of those to break off. I'm not sure yet if that's something that's going to be an easy repair or not. So that's something Carl and Kelly and I will all work together to figure out with the maintenance guys.
Okay.
But that was an issue that we did run into.
Okay.
Any other questions for Tawny?
And I do have 2 events.
Okay, yep.
I just for the records, so we did talk with Tony's office a little bit. We had a meeting out there, myself, HR, some of the team members to talk a little bit about what it looks like right now out there at Prairie Creek, and then what we can do to work together and focus on those piers. I do know that the financing is in process. I met with Jeff Huff in reference to some of the work that him and Dustin and the controller had worked on a proposal. I think he's going to be prepared to come before the board and present that proposal, and then have a final sign-off maybe with the city and the bank to bring the financing in to purchase the floating piers that Tani talked about we still need to put in place to replace all of those other wooden ones that we do have. I'm just getting on board, up to speed a little bit with that, but from what I do know, we won't have as much time on those wooden docks when we get the floating docks in place. So we talked about that, and then the other thing we talked about was the support between the two parks. We're just trying to make this thing merge and work where we can utilize the talent from both parks and equipment from both departments, and then hopefully have a nice, team of teamwork and things being done. So that's the conversation I've had with the mayor and Tani's office and the maintenance department in terms of Junior and those guys, making sure they understand the chain of command. We went over the structure, going forward, how the chain of command is going to work. It's not so much that we're looking back, we're going forward, and we just had a meeting and talk about the structure, what the structure is going to look like. So.
Thank you, Carl.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
The financing is in process to purchase. How many floating docks are we talking about?
I haven't seen all of the paperwork. I want to say between 150 to 200. Does that number sound right? As far as the,
I think so.
yeah. So, but I'm gonna have a conversation on Monday with the mayor, and then to be exact on that number, I've only had one meeting with Jeff Huff from the bank, and then he's prepared some docs and stuff that he wants to come before the board and have you guys informed and be able to ask any questions to the finance committee that's going to be help purchasing those floating docks. So.
Can we get that information before the meeting too, so we can?
Yes.
Review it a little bit?
In fact, when I met with him last week, he may have it already prepared to go ahead and send over to you guys. And that way give you a chance to look at it, and then when he does come, you'll be prepared to ask questions.
Thank you.
Yep.
Well,
Tony, was any of the new piers damaged by the rocks or anything like that? Because I received calls that they were beating up against the rocks and.
No, I didn't see any damage. I haven't heard of any damage due to the rocks. They're pretty strong. It was just, I think the wind hitting it, like pushing it against something so hard, the piece that sticks out is what snapped off. So I don't know if it just came out. They're kind of like Legos. So I don't know if it's going to be an easy fix or it actually snapped.
Are you guys starting a process or to explain to the people working how to take these piers out, how to put them down? And
They've had training in the past, I believe, by the people who sell them. And then also we've worked with the sailboat club because they already had them to teach us things. That's where we've come up with some of the new training. We're wanting to work on the safety issues with it. We've been using, what are the outfits? The waders. So the waders, they're barely going into the water. That's worked before. But when you're on a boat out in the deep, if you fall in with those waders on, you're not getting out. It doesn't matter how strong of a swimmer you are. So we've already talked to Kelly about that. He's been talking to the mayor. Carl's been talking to the mayor about that. Everybody's on board. We're going to start getting a new training system in for safety and what we need to use going forward. We're going to have those by March.
And then have you guys started discussing the security for next year?
We had prior to Kelly coming. I haven't got to sit down. I have some things that I was working out with Dustin and the mayor a little bit, but I haven't gotten to meet with Carl and Kelly about that yet. We've talked about maybe bringing somebody in. I don't know what that's going to look like or if that's going to be what Carl and Kelly want, but we've talked to different organizations that have police officers. We've talked about different stages and what that'd look like and the cost if we could afford it. So possibly having either a security company or even officers out there.
Any other questions for Tony? Thank you, Tony.
Yes, in regards to safety and the security, we know we had some issues out there last year. In one of the department head meetings we had, I know the Muncie Police had some conversation with the mayor and probably Dustin as well. And so on Monday, when I meet with the mayor, that's one of the other conversations we're going to have about the safety and the security and having arresting power. I thought they were trying to bring the police in because they don't really get in there that much to work, but seeing if there's some kind of proposal for city police to come out and work out a little bit. I don't know the details, but I know there was a little bit of conversation about working with chief of police to help some of the city officers come out. Don't know where they're at or if there's still ongoing conversation, but I will definitely have that on my agenda list items to talk about the safety out there at Perry Creek. So I do know that much.
I just know we had a lot of theft out there towards the end of the season, and when there's no security or security sleeping.
Right.
We need security that's going to do their job.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. I haven't met with Carl about this yet, but because this was before Carl had kind of taken over. But I did meet with some police officers, and there are some options that we could go over, different prices, to talk about having our own officer out there. So that could be like a 4 or 5 day a week thing where the officer is just for Prairie Creek, and then they're on call for like Monday and Tuesday. So that's something that I have all the paperwork. I can sit with Carl and Kelly and kind of tell him what I was told and maybe even make a new meeting with the officer.
It's also really important, the times. So like 4 o'clock or maybe 3 o'clock, but go till 2 or 3 a.m.
Yep, that's kind of what we were looking at. And I'm trying to remember everything that we had spoke about, but it'd be like 2 people kind of running it. But there's they can also change rules. The officer is saying we can have something set up where the rules will allow them to be able to do city and county
Arresting.
Yeah. Exactly, we'll give them
Power
the rights
or
to do
whatever.
both,
Right, okay.
which has been an issue. It'll also allow with some of the rules we have on the water, I believe.
Okay.
Like if your boat is on somebody else's spot before, even so we've been told we can move it, we've also had other people telling us we can't. So it's like we're always talking to different people telling us different things. If lawyers telling us one thing, the city chief is telling us one thing, it's been really confusing. So this will allow us to actually be able to implement our rules and have somebody that will do it. So I just need to sit with Carl and show him all that.
Okay.
So we actually have to pay the city police to come out in this
Yeah.
agreement in a city park?
Whenever we have events, we've always had to have funding in place for security. It used to be the first thing on the application was, do you have security for those events? And there's usually some kind of fee associated with the officers if they're working overtime. And that's throughout the city. That's throughout, even in all of our parks. There's usually a cost associated with our city police. A lot of guys, I think they work overtime, things of that nature. They sign up for it, and then we just have to have a budget set aside to cover the costs. And I know Perry Creek has come up a couple times in some of the meetings, and so I think we need to just get to a actual meeting room and talk about costs as it relates to.
So does the city pay for patrol in city parks too,
Well,
like in town?
during the regular time, they're working hours, but when it's a special event, we have to pay for security. And it's not cheap. I mean, some officers charge what they make if they go other places. When they go down to Indy and they go to other places and do events, they make their, whatever that fee may be, $50 an hour, $60 an hour. But I think it's an opportunity to sit down and have a conversation about, what that looks like in terms of manpower. Majority of the officers sometimes are working within the city, and there may only be a handful that may sign up to work, and so those guys are wanting to be supported financially to come out and provide services, as I know it. So, but if there's something that we can work out in the budget to have that money set aside, I think that's the right thing to do as well.
Can we be involved in some of that negotiation?
Yes,
Or just
we definitely. I can have that conversation on Monday as well to talk about, have chief of police and whoever he would have sit in on those meetings and talk about how we can make it work.
Thank you.
Yep.
Are you ready for my events?
Yep, let's hear what you got on events.
All right, so I have the AMVETS Post 12, the Catfish Pirates. They're going to come out for their annual fishing tournament. This is 200, 300 people. They raise money for veterans in the community. They fix their roofs. They do housework. They do anything that the veterans around here really need or ask for. So they will rent a table. I don't know if they've gotten a hold of Nikki. They said they would. They usually get a hold of her to rent the tent from the park.
They already came in.
Okay, I figured they did. They won't have any vendors.
When is it?
This is going to be Sunday, May 25th at 8 a.m. all the way to 2 p.m. I don't see anything about security. And this is going to be in the beach area next to the first shelter.
They've hosted this event out there before, haven't they?
Yeah. Last year they had, it's been growing. So last year they had about 300 people. So it's been growing. I think they said, I think that I was told they made like 14,000 last year. So it's a great thing to have
What are
out
they
there for
doing?
our community.
What are they, so it's a fundraiser for them?
It is, yeah.
And they're just going in the water, or what are they?
They're just doing, they're doing fishing tournament.
Oh, fishing.
They have about 20 to, or 30 or 40 teams.
Any other questions regarding the AMVETS Catfish Tournament?
Is there alcohol?
I don't believe so.
Other questions? Entertain a motion to approve?
Moved.
A second.
Second.
Second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye. My concern is that there's no security, and just to be fair and equitable across all of our programming, we should have we should have something where they have security.
They have
So-
done it before, right?
Yeah,
Done this last year, right?
Yeah,
Did they have security last year?
I
I
don't
don't
recall.
believe so.
Okay, so we probably should have them.
I'll talk to him. I'm sure it won't be an issue. So if you want to, if I can bring this back next month too, and we can
Well,
talk about security.
We voted approved
Yeah,
it
they approved it.
4-1.
Well, I'll talk to him about maybe having some security, and I'll update you guys on that.
I think that's something that we as a board need to look at, having a standard for what's our threshold. I know we've kind of talked about this a
Yeah.
couple of times, is how we establish which events do need security and how we move forward with those, not only in the city parks, but out there
Yeah.
at Prairie Creek as well.
Yeah.
Insurance coverage probably to be important. If
Yeah.
we're up to 300 people and it's making 14,000,
Yeah.
we probably need to be sure there's some kind of coverage that protects the city.
Yeah, I'll talk to him. I'm sure that's not an issue at all.
Do we have that on any of our forms when they
Do they have insurance?
apply? Like, do we ask that of them?
We do for the parks, city parks, I know, for security. But do we, with the Prairie Creek form?
I don't, it's been a while since I looked at that form.
I'm looking at it.
See, I thought it was the same for both.
Yeah,
No,
it's
it's
not. It
different.
should be.
Let me see my back.
We should have one form.
Mm-hmm.
If we're really trying to integrate, we should maybe think about integrating forms too.
Yeah.
What we have for security just states that the event organizer shall be responsible to obtain and pay for security services. All public events require security. So all public
So it's right,
events.
it's
So
here.
it's in the the
Right,
application that.
yeah, it is.
So, yeah. So per the agreement, the contract there, then they'll need to provide that.
And I can't imagine like a group that works with the military not having
Being
a
able
quick
to do that,
access
yeah.
to security. So we'll make sure that is set up prior to this event.
Thank you.
Is there any language about insurance on there? Sorry.
I don't think that there is. But then again, I have read something somewhere, maybe in our
Liability.
rules about insurance. I don't know if it's on here, but it might be in our park rules, so
But they may not,
for even,
Feel that
yeah,
they're
might be
subjected
something it
for
needs added, yeah.
maybe what I would do is send that to Aubrey Christ and ask where we put that in there.
Okay.
Insurance and security.
And if we work on security for like an amount of people, we could get that added,
Yeah.
guys.
What a
Don't-
threshold is.
Yeah. I don't see anything for
Right.
insurance. I will send it to her tomorrow.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
You said you've got another event as well?
Kind of. So I did, and I walked in and I had to step out because he scheduled it for Iron Man. So I will be back next year or next month with the Bass Lafayette yearly tournament because they're not going to be able to get in. So I called him and he's going to talk to the group. So I told him I'd let you guys know that we will be here next month with that. All right. Anything else from me? All right. Thank you guys. Have a good night.
Thank you, Tony. Next on the agenda, we've got Friends of Prairie Creek. You guys got anything to add today?
I don't have anything to add, but if they have a
Yeah.
Come on up.
Hi, I'm Christy. I'm a permanent camper out there, and I also have a dock space. But while we're talking about security, I was at a meeting a few months back, and we were talking about closing off, and I was always told that it's a public park. And I said, well, the sailboat club is also part of that. And I was told, no, it's not. And I said, well, there's signs. And I was told, no, there's not. But we took pictures. And it clearly says, members and guests only, no public access. And there's chains across it.
So the sail club has a separate lease that's tied to our lease with American Water. So they've got a separate lease.
So can we have access to that? I mean, it should
I would have to
public
review
knowledge.
what their lease terms are and what their restrictions are on their agreement with them.
Okay, I just think that we should know that if we're gonna say, because I know that, you know, they pay fees there, they keep their fees. Just like when you're combining the parks, Prairie Creek is pretty much self-funded. So how is that gonna work? So that was my input on that. The other thing is I'm looking for a new camper. And I'm very limited because the electricity out there, last summer, the only thing I could run was my air conditioner. That's it. If I had my microwave turned on, it tripped my air conditioner. I know that a huge expense is the electricity out there. I, for one, would rather pay my own electricity, especially if I'm going to get 50 amp service, because most campers require at least 30 amp. All the ones I'm looking at are 50 amp. The other thing is there are so many different sizes, and I don't expect you guys to rework the sites. I would never ask that. I'm going to look at switch day to see if I can get to a bigger site. I know that there are people out there that have no room for anything but their camper. They can't even park their vehicles on their campsite because they're so small. again, I'm not asking you to revamp the campsites, but when you're looking at raising the rates, I feel like those rates, if I don't have the set size that this person has, I don't think I should have to pay the same amount. And as far as the electricity, I keep getting told that it's going to cost too much. It's going to have we even looked?
We've had,
Yeah.
not recently within the last 2 years, but we did have pricing, and it was,
Because there's 3 campsites that have 50 amp service.
Where are those?
It was the mayor's spot. It was Nicholson, his spot, and Kay Walker's spot. And it's not hers anymore, but it was the 3 political. This is not a political thing. I do not care.
Sure.
What I do care about is they get 50 amp service, and all I can run is one air conditioner with, I bought a smoker. I can't plug it in while the air conditioner's running. So if you want to raise the rates, I think that this is going to become an issue. You're not going to have a lottery when people can't even put a new camper out there and run 2 air conditioners.
Yeah.
And again, I know that the biggest expense, or a big, huge expense, is the electricity out there. If we're all paying our own, and I know that there will be people that will be very upset, but they're not going to run their electricity when they're not there. Those air conditioners that are running, my neighbor came out twice all year long. His air conditioner ran all year long,
Yeah.
all year, when it was cold. So I found somebody that knew them, and I'm like, hey, you might want to check this. It was running hot air. So you're paying for electricity when you don't need to be. And I know that if you're not out there very much and you don't leave your air conditioner on, your electricity is not going to be that expensive.
Yeah.
So I'm just asking because, again, I'm looking for a new camper, and I'm limited to the size of camper and the power. Because if I'm going to plug in a 50 amp into a 20 amp, it's going to create a problem.
Yeah.
And it's not fair that there's some campsites, only 3, that have 50 amp service, and the rest of us don't.
Yep.
So, just,
Your point's well taken.
Yeah.
The individual metering for people to pay for their own is one aspect of it, and that seems like a fair way to address it. The problem is the infrastructure to redo the system, is what we've been told.
Right.
It's extremely expensive we would like to redo the whole system because it's not
yeah.
what we think should be provided. But it's the cost of doing that and where we would come up with the funds to do that. But I think we'd continue to be open to solutions to that.
I'm not going to speak for everyone, but I would pay personally.
Yeah.
Because what I love about Prairie Creek is my boat is right there, and it's close to home.
Yeah.
So I'm there every weekend
Yeah.
because it's close to home. However, there are other campgrounds. Eventually that is going to become an issue, especially if you raise, because we are cheap. It is cheap. I might not be very liked after this, but I don't care. The thing is I'm willing to pay more if I can have the camper that I want. And I can run my air conditioner and my oven when I make breakfast,
Yeah.
I can't do any of those things. And when it's 100,000 degrees outside, which I can't wait after today, but, just something to think about. Different
Thank you.
options
Thank
for us.
you.
Thank you.
Hi,
hello.
Mike Foster, the calm person of my life.
The other half.
The only thing I asked the board is, and we talked in some late fall, we know you guys have a lot of challenges. I've sat on boards and your time's limited. Have we considered putting some type of steering committee to look at these major projects with the new combination of the park so that we can have some input and study? I'm a heavy equipment operator of Local 103. I've run equipment my whole life. One of the things I heard was, we'd have to move everything out. Equipment is so small today, what it was when I started in the 80s. There are super small trenching systems that run up and down there. Nothing would be affected, but by bringing all the players to the table with their expertise, I'm willing to volunteer to sit on boards like that so we can address that, because is there art money, is there edit money, is there are we considered a state park? Is there state funding out there? There's lots of different, are we applying for grants for this? I mean, right out the back, we're saying it's a cost, and I understand that, but can that cost be subsidized through a little bit more hard work to see that there is a grant out here? Has the power companies been contacted? Because some power companies will go in and develop an area, whether it's a subdivision and or possibly this campsite, because they're the ones going to reap all the rewards of the usage of it. And, you know, you have other things where it's popular or not, you know, with wind turbines and everything else. It just seems like there's a lot of things out there I think we could be looking at, other than saying what you guys are challenged all the time is it is a huge cost. I mean, you're probably looking at 1 million plus
Oh, yeah.
to run up through
Double
there.
that.
But that, along with a small subsidizing, you know, I shared in a meeting there last fall, you know, of the $800,000 I seen on November's report, $550,000 of that was the slip renters and the campers. So those two groups of people are. And my last question was, is there any public information on that sailboat? Because what I'm researching from that is that the sailboat club is still part of Prairie Creek, even though it has a contract. I believe it to be with the city. I think you shared it's with American Electric. I haven't been able to identify that. Sometimes getting those contracts are a little hard.
Yeah.
They're real easy through the city, not so much through a private entity. But I guess the dovetailing back on, you know, the amount of money that the campers and the pier leasees put in contribution for this wonderful facility that we have, is the way I'm understanding from that, we can't have the security gates down because it has to be freely traveled because it's part of the reservoir. Whether it's a sailboat, the horse, the ATV, the campground, that's all part of the reservoir, including the sailboat. So even though they may be able to mark off their section of the sailboat, like I do my campsite, they can't, I think you shared, Mr. Marshall, you know, they can't come up on my campsite, but they can walk
Right.
the bank. And I do believe, even in that lease, that would constitute that bank going around. And not to make a big deal out of it, I just think they don't proportionally pay a lot of money to Prairie Creek compared to the money that they, you know, it almost wants me to go back to the campground group of people and say, why don't we become a 501(c), incorporate ourselves, get the same deal that Sailboat has, club, control all those 1 through 100, I think Tawny said, inside the campground, lease those, and then let's take our money in, like the Sailboat Club, and let's manage it like the Sailboat Club. I don't think that's conducive for what you guys are shooting towards, trying to make one park. But I think you still have a couple entities out there that's had pretty good deals over the year. I think maybe needs to be reevaluated.
But one clarification there, the Sailboat Club does pay Prairie Creek for the slip fees.
Yep.
So they pay the Prairie Creek.
The
for their-
30,000 plus every slip that's down there.
For their slips, yeah,
That's part of the 30,000.
right, because
Yeah.
that's based on.
It's
their-
just what,
their
they pay
rate.
one, yeah.
Yeah.
They pay one rental fee.
Right,
And then anything they have down there, whether they rent their building out for festivities or they take all that money and put that back into their not-for-profit to pay that
Right.
30,000. I think it was 30, I think. if
I'd
I
have to go
remember.
back and look, but that
Yeah,
sounds roughly right.
yeah.
So they're making money off the city, they're profiting off the city.
Well, I think that's how they established that. I mean, our thought process is, why don't we do the same thing as campers? Why don't we go around and talk to our campers and have the same setup, which I think is not very conducive for the park, because like I shared earlier, of the $800,000 that was on the book as of November last year, $520-some thousand of it was the boat rentals and the campsite. So
Right.
I think we're willing to come in and try to work with you guys any way we can. I don't know that all parties are, but we definitely are, so.
Well, thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
With our next 5-year master plan, we'd like to have we have a survey, but we could either add questions on, so everybody could answer questions about Prairie Creek on one survey. It's probably, or we could have a separate Prairie Creek survey so that we can ask people, do you want, 50 amp service? That would be something. And we had a survey for security last spring that we had sent out to all campers to ask them about about security. So maybe we need to pull that survey up when you're talking about security, because we have community voices that need to be heard for security. And so that, I think, a big piece is going to guide us on what do people want, not just campers, but you have to realize, though, that's going to raise rates. And there's a large voice, though, that are like, absolutely don't raise rates. But I can understand, you're like, well, we're going to see some improvement, so we're willing to pay. But there is a huge cohort of people that don't want that to happen, because they made it very clear to us that they don't want anything to change. They don't mind it being somewhat antiquated and at that lower. So, and I know you know them, but they've kind of hammered it in.
If you're paying for what you get, and we are the cheapest, and that's why they're there. And if the rates go up because you improve things, and they can't afford it, then we might get different people.
Right, and that's where one of the things that I'm interested to look at as the
Yeah.
board this year is how we've been at this this new rate for, this will be the second or third year, second year, to see how it affects the lottery, see what kind of interest and input we're still receiving on that lottery, and then.
We heard input from people in the lottery that showed up and said, this place didn't have 50 amp service, why would I want to come here? And drove away and just didn't pay their fee, and they went back, the camper went, or the campsite went back into
The lottery, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, all spots were paid for this year, so there was none that were not receiving revenue from those spots this year.
I just wanted to point out to Carl and the rest of the board members that didn't come to the October meeting, there was a lot of feedback on them a lot of the people saying that they would pay for extra things like security or electric. Those were the two main things. So I think going forward with that plan, if we really wanted to see what the people out there were saying, if they really were willing to, I think that'd be a great idea to go forward with asking them. Last year we had a lot of feedback on the things that they sent out to the community, like inside the reservoir. So I'm sure Brad and Shannon remember they came pretty deep, and there's a lot of talk about these are things that mean a lot to us. We'd be willing to pay for it. So I just wanted you guys to know that there was a lot of people, not just the two here today, that has said that.
I think the electricity is going to become an issue anyways, because not every site is the same. Some people can run more things and others can't.
Yeah.
And I put in a work order and they came out and checked mine and said there's nothing wrong with it, but yet I can only run one thing at a time. But then there's other campsites, Nathan can run more than one thing. And they can run more than one thing. So it's different, boxes are different. So to me, there's going to be an issue with electricity out there eventually, whether we want it or not.
Yeah.
I'm gonna come up there and can I come up?
Yeah, certainly.
Is it a thought that we could do it individualized, like what they said? Is that possible?
Nathan Buck. So we were talking about security. I don't remember the numbers, but I want to say we had a $75,000 budget for security, and we spent $9,000 of that last year. I don't know if there was more security costs. I'm just saying the paper that I saw, I would like to try to spend that before we start putting more money on us for security. I mean, if that's possible. I mean, and he brought up something great, like if we're a city park out there, the city police should patrol that park, shouldn't they? To a certain extent. I'm not saying like all day, every day, but at least like sometimes they drive out through there, make their presence known.
Right.
And then if we have that, then maybe 11 o'clock to 7 o'clock we have, or 5 o'clock or whatever, maybe 6 or 7 hours at night, we have a police officer that we pay that can arrest people. to come in, and that would save us some dollars as far as paying for 12 hours or 8 hours or whatever, because it's a city park. The police should patrol it to a certain extent, shouldn't they?
Yeah.
I mean, without being part of a security fund or raise money or whatever.
Right. So on the 75 number, I'll talk a little bit. I think we've discussed it a little bit before. We had, so at the beginning of last year, they had I wouldn't say it's an agreement, but they had some steps in place that they were going to look at having a police staff out there. And Tawny, if any of this is wrong to your memory, correct me as we go through here. Yeah. So we had, that 75 was earmarked to have an officer out on site. That agreement or understanding didn't work out the way we expected it to, and that price was going to be almost double. Because of the staffing they wanted to require for the police, for their safety, their security.
So they're wanting probably
wanted
two
two.
officers.
They wanted two officers, right? So that was earmarked for one, they wanted two, so it doubles. And then the security that we did have out there, majority of that was actually paid out of the part-time labor line. So that's where that got.
Because that
paid
was
for.
over budget, right? The part-time?
The part-time was over
Okay.
budget. So that's where the security that was out there that we did provide, in addition to the normal security we have, that's where those line items came out of. Yep.
Okay. See, I didn't know anything. I just knew that I seen 9,000 out of the 75,000.
Yep.
So, I mean, so this coming year, are we, I mean, I heard some talking about it. but
Yeah,
we're-
so that's
is that
some of the
budget
stuff.
still there? The 75,000?
I believe that's still the line item for
I
the
don't think
25
it's that
year.
much. I think it was 60.
Did it get reduced for
Pretty sure
the
The
25?
number I saw was 75 on the
Okay.
sheet. Now,
Okay.
whether, I mean,
I don't know.
money came from different places, so I don't. you
I'd
know.
have to look at the 25 budget, but I know for 24 it was 75.
Okay.
Okay.
There are like grants that are available, that we didn't know about before that could help with this.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna talk to Carl and Lee about that. There are some grants that are available and nobody's really reaching into them that could help with the system we're trying to set up out there.
So that's where we're looking. We know that security is one of the top issues and concerns out there. Securities and amenities, obviously, are probably the top two.
Well, as far as the power goes, though, you guys say that who has talked to the power company? Have you talked to the power company?
I have not personally.
Okay.
I know.
So how do we start that step to say, hey, if we come in and we meter 220 campsites, what will you charge to put in the power? Is that a conversation that could start? That way-
Dustin did.
Yeah,
So I know Dustin and Tawny had some of those conversations, and
Informed me, but I saw the paperwork and I was thinking it was like $1 million.
It was over
And that was
that.
that was metering every single place.
right.
$1.5 million was the number I heard.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it wasn't it was to meter every single place, and it was the infrastructure to actually put the system in.
Okay.
There was a problem. I don't think anyone would have a problem with having that discussion. Again, it's been 2 or 3 years.
Well, I don't know if the AEP maybe offers grants or something like
Yeah.
that.
Right.
I mean, and they might.
Yeah,
I mean, they might. I know that the cost, they're not gonna pay for meters.
yeah,
So somebody's gonna have to go out there and set 220 meters.
Right.
And probably 4x4 posts and all of that. So, I know it's gonna cost a lot, but I mean, as far as the power being put in, I know there's a lot of, I mean, we sub for utility companies, so it's a matter of, I see and I hear a lot about like dollar for dollar upgrading facilities and stuff like that when it comes to power companies, especially if there's old junky power. And if there's old power out there, they might be willing to do some subsidy type stuff.
Right.
So-
And I think the other piece of that was, I know when we were looking at redoing the power, we were also looking at, we anticipated that the water would need to be addressed at that same
It'd be a
time.
mess. Yeah. you- right.
Either
Yeah.
you're interfacing with the water, or you've really got to do that at the same time. And I'm sure that's a little cheaper, but there's going to be a significant expense associated with that as well.
Problem with that is that one contractor couldn't do that.
Yeah.
If you could do like one contractor doing it at the same time, but the power company would have to have their own. They'd have amp or
Right.
whatever, you know, I mean, they're not gonna put in power at the same time.
So it's going to be two set of contractors.
So that would be double the cost,
Yep.
yeah.
so.
I don't want to speak for my colleagues on the board, but I feel safe in this. I think we would all like to see the electrical system, the water upgraded. And I don't think any of us would be resistant to looking at options and studying. We've always, when we've looked at it, we've never been able to get an agreement. And I think something that Brad and Shannon said, there was a very large group that made it very clear that no increase in cost
I mean,
was one of the charms of Prairie Creek compared to everywhere else.
Right.
But there is not going to be anything, such thing as a free lunch. We got to figure out how to do it.
I don't want my rates to go up either if I
Yeah.
don't get anything for it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
if I'm gonna give more money, I wanna know what I'm getting.
Accountability is really important.
Yep.
And that's,
Really
I mean, like,
important.
there's a lot of people that are willing to help
Yeah.
like,
I personally would not want to be a small user of electricity and be subsidizing everyone else. I like the idea of meters. I think everybody should be able to use what they want to use, but pay for it.
yeah.
Yep.
And how we get there is just philosophically, I think that's the right way to do it.
Yeah.
Figuring out how to get there is the challenge.
Yeah, and even if it's this year, next year, 5 years down the road, I've heard 5-year plan. I mean, if you can talk to AEP, talk to the engineers, talk to whoever, and they say, well, this is, I mean, we've done this in the past, or maybe we could come up with, try to get some outside funding, grants, we could do something with that. I'm sure there's stuff that can be done to help offset the cost. I mean, there's always something.
yeah. Would you be willing to be part of that steering committee with Mike Foster?
Absolutely. I mean, I know a lot of, yeah, I know a lot about underground utilities, so.
So that sounds like you two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very knowledgeable.
Well, great.
And maybe Jim could serve on that committee as the board member that's on that committee, since if with your background as well.
I know we've
construction.
talked about a couple individual conversations that our 5-year plan is coming up here due next year. And we didn't overlook Prairie Creek, but we didn't spend a lot of focus on it on the past 5-year plan. And that is certainly a focus on this next 5-year plan, is to include some major issues and some vision out there.
My biggest complaint's the 4th of July. That's my biggest complaint out of the whole thing. You know, I mean, I got people walking through my campsite, parking in front of my camp. Yeah, I mean,
Yep.
it's like the wild, wild west. So that's not, I mean, people flying, I mean, we're on the front and then we've got the road right directly behind us. We got people flying up and down that.
Yep.
That's where I want the security.
Yep.
It's when,
Yep.
you know what I mean, like, 'cause there's a lot of people acting crazy out there and it's like, people are driving through your site trying to get around the
To where they
traffic,
need
just
to
trying to get out. It's like, I mean, you knew what was gonna happen when you came in here.
Yep.
So when my friends come out, I'm like, hey, you're here for at least an hour after the fireworks, just hang out.
You
There's
can't
no
get out,
reason
yep.
to, you know what I mean? There's no reason to think. So thank you.
Yeah, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. On to the old business. We talked about a little bit already, Kelly and her new hire there as the
All righty.
working foreman.
And as is stated here, the actual title won't be assistant superintendent, but it'll be working foreman.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And we've had some discussion with Patty and the HR as well, and it was on some of the applications, and so there's been some changes to that, but that'll fall right in with some of the day-to-day operation that Kelly will be responsible for, getting feedback from the campground people and those folks that have concerns, us actually having a working person between our park system, I think it's going to be a plus. Sitting down with Tani, just for the records, with Tani being the office operation manager, then having to be the field manager as well, doing it several times, I thought she got kind of overwhelmed and kind of thrown into the fire. So my hat's off to her. I think she done a wonderful job. Looking at some of the duties that Kelly will have, will take some of that load off, where she'll be able to directly get with the maintenance people and the people actually in the field, and then bring feedback back to myself. And then we figure out if we need to continue with committees and things that we need to do to make Prairie Creek be what it can be, and then have these discussions about the power. I know we've had discussions about power for 5 years that I know of. And so, yeah, I think having a committee together and looking at costs and then looking at ways we can upgrade our campground site would definitely be the way to go. But it takes time. It's a process. But I think having a committee to look at what we can do would be a great amenity to Perry Creek as well. So just want to clear that some of her duties and responsibility will be to coordinate activities out there at Perry Creek with the office, maintenance, and the campground people as things come up. So
kind of on that same note, and we can have some board discussion here, is I know in the past it's kind of functioned both ways. It's been a working foreman in the parks that was longer ago, and then our most recent history, that working foreman's been dedicated out at Prairie Creek. I think there's workload and justification that you could have two working foremen or an assistant, whatever you want to title it. But I could see that there's justification or reason to have both. One
Correct.
that's in town working with Carl, dedicated there, and one that is dedicated out at Prairie Creek. Clearly, there's some funding issues, and how do we get there? But maybe that's something we can envision, we look into in the 5-year plan as well. I think that Kelly coming in with her experience with the parks is going to be great. So she's not starting cold. She's got an idea of what we got going on. And I am looking to really get some feedback from her on what's working, what's not. Hopefully we can overflow or wheelbarrow her in the beginning and then trim it back and figure out what's reasonable and how do we structure this and support the team out there.
I agree with that, Brad, as well.
So, any other thoughts or requests or vision on how we're going to be using the working foreman position and Kelly's new role? I mean, this would be a good time for questions or thoughts here. Or, Kelly, I know you're 1 day in or 2 days in now, so.
I just think it's a good idea.
Hold it to the
And I
fire.
think Kelly is a good pick for it.
Yeah, I do too. I would, I'm
Go
sorry,
ahead, Shannon.
Mark. No, I would just say that I think job descriptions need to be very clear. Communication needs to be open. Because there's a lot of personalities, and some people have worked for this city for a long period of time and are set in their ways. And then there's new people.
Yep.
So I think handing Kelly a clear job description is super important.
Yeah, HR is working on that as we speak.
So she doesn't get
Right.
blamed for, I didn't know I was supposed to do that, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So, yeah, it's a big piece of it.
Yeah.
And communication, I think, is huge for everybody.
Yep.
And-
I ju-
Oh, good.
I just think the primary focus should be Prairie Creek. I mean, with subsidizing in town, but, I mean, Prairie Creek needs a lot of work, so
Yep.
we need to get it straightened back up.
Yep.
Is
I
it
agree.
3-2, like 3 Prairie
That
Creek,
just was
2?
tossed out. There may be days she's out there 5 days a week.
Okay.
Just look at it like this. We've worked 5 years without a working foreman. I just always brought Richard and individuals out and just kind of see my day as it goes. And so if it's a situation where she's out there 2 weeks in a row, that's because she's needed out there for that time period. I don't think she has to be 3 days in, 2 days out, vice versa. If it calls for her to be out there for the time frame, that's just going to be communicated and documented, and that's where she'll be.
Okay.
And then we'll function in our park system the way we have. We function fine for the 5. We just said that person is needed as we try to grow. So
Well, this position is replacing Dustin's position, correct?
yes,
And I think that makes sense, seeing how we're trying to work towards merging the parks anyway. Not
Right.
giving her a set designation, at least until we can get her an assistant.
right,
You know?
right.
I really like the idea, and I think something that Brad said, I think is really important. This is a really, really good first step, and I think it's going to be really good. It's going to benefit the parks, it's going to benefit Prairie Creek, which is a park.
Right.
I think it's really important that we not stop here, because I think what everybody wants is an excellent park system
Right.
for the city of Muncie. And personally, I think there's more than enough work probably to support a position at Prairie Creek and a position in the parks that both report to the superintendent.
Right.
And so, summer is the time, May, June, July, when they start talking about budgets. That's the time to talk to the mayor, to the
Right.
city council,
Yeah.
and say, this is working well, but how much better it can work if we have someone
Yeah.
devoted both places.
Right. So I think we can get there. I just think we're at a point now where it's time to make that move, make that improvement in budget and staffing, because we are working to improve our park systems. The last 5 years, we all know what all's been done from when we started out at Perry Creek as well, and then in our city parks. And so I feel that's going to continue to have growth and timelines. And so it's the timing is right for us to have those individuals in place. And you look at the flow chart from previous park plans, 5-year plans, you'll see the reduction in staffing in our park system now versus what was in the actual chain of command structure over those other years as well. So it's always, it's the funding thing. It's the funding and putting the funding in the right place. But if we're doing the work and we can create the work and we can show the work, then I think that puts us in a good place to request.
Kelly, do you have anything to add? Not yet. Not yet. Good. Anything else from the board on that topic? Don't go too far, Carl. I got a couple more for you.
Okay.
Playground update, West Side and Altshire. I know last meeting we discussed, there were some preliminary designs, at least being discussed and reviewed. Didn't know
Yes.
if anything was updated there or still?
Not much on Altshire. I know that's one that the mayor talked about to me personally as to what we could do. There are some monies, some playground monies in our budget that we're going to do a little bit of work with. For example, Friday I'm meeting with the shelter people to look at replacing the shelter there at Altshire. I looked at the framework and the roofing, and it does need to be replaced. So I'm meeting Friday to discuss costs with that. The basketball court definitely is outdated, and we need to remove those basketball goals and backboards. As I recall, there's one line that may need to be sealed. I think we can seal that, paint that court, bring that court back to life. So those two things I know we can get done within our budget. And then I'll still be in conversation about the playground stuff. We have this old rubber mulch that's in there right now. And then the playground is old itself too. So we got to look at maybe a grant or cost, a 50-50 type matching grant to get something put in place and remove that. But I know we're going to work on the shelter and the basketball court first, and then the actual playground will come in line after we get those two up. So that's what I know about Altshire. And then West Side, we just met with Commercial Recreations to come out and give us some renderings. They did that. We met with them to look at costs. So we got to do some follow-up with them and then check with the neighborhood association. I think community development is in that area, and so we're going to see if we can get some support from community development to help with the cost for the renderings that we've gotten from CRG. And that's on the playground equipment at Westside Park. That also is old equipment and been in there for a long time.
Yes.
That particular park is used a lot daily. So if we can get the playground structure put in place with the skate park, and then we continue to work on the basketball court and the baseball diamond, I think we've really got a nice product there at Westside. So that's the hope, and that's the vision to make upgrades there at Westside.
Is there any way to fix the ponding on the baseball
Yeah,
court,
I'm
or,
gonna have to. We've looked at that before, and I think the city engineer would need to go out there and take a look and see what needs to happen. I don't know how much it would cost to get that to drain the right way, but it does, because it wouldn't make sense to put a new surface in there and you still have the same water coming up. So it's a situation where the water situation, I don't know if that's draining, that needs to be looked at, but I think if we're gonna invest in that park the way we have, I think that needs to be looked at as well. So that's another thing I can follow up with on Monday, to get our city engineer to take a look at that.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is the walkway, the trail that goes by West Side Park into the river, that's Cardinal Greenway? Is that
No,
who is?
that's, what do we call that?
Um,
White River.
White River Greenway, it's
White
part
River
of,
Greenway.
So my thought is in making the improvements to the park, if it can be considered, that we put like a staircase going down that hill. Because I know when me and my children go to that park a lot, they want to go play in the water or play by the water, and that hill is pretty steep. And then walking all the way down to Timbuktu with little kids to get to the path is a lot.
Okay.
So I think that would be a good addition to add to that as well,
okay.
or some sort of something to get down there.
I think that'd be great. I think that'd be something nice going right in with the plan and the vision that we have for West Side. I really do think it's doable to facelift West Side this year and maybe the year following, depending on the cost. I just see so many people there all the time, and so it's definitely the baseball diamond. I think, Mr. James, you asked about were we getting help and support for the lighting, things of that nature. That's been kind of put on the back burner from what we were told, and so we need to follow up with sanitation and those and some of the board members to see about where we're at. But the way it was brought to our team that the project had been put on hold for us, the people that was going to help assist with moving the lighting. So they were waiting, grounds got hard, and then all of a sudden they decided to put it on the back burner. So we did not move forward as I thought we were. So I was a little surprised by the change of plans. But so we still have the lights out there at the sports complex along with the scoreboards. So we were hoping to bring 5 of those scoreboards in. We was going to put 3 of them up in our city parks, and then put lighting at West Side Park, and then lighting at Muncie Central's high school baseball diamond as well. So that's another conversation I can have on Monday to see who's making the call on that plan and where we're at with that decision.
Thank you, Carl. I don't have anything new on Till Pond. I know we've kind of got it on our agenda here. Anything new from your end, Carl? Last time it was still
No.
Permit land.
permitting and approval land.
Yep.
Next on the old business, I've got floating dock update on here. We kind of touched on it a little bit. I know
Yeah.
Mark and I did receive an email from Jeff. They're looking at some funding sources for that, potentially financing
Right.
to finish out those docks. I think that's something that the board will need to discuss and review.
Yep.
Historically, the docks we've installed have either been paid from grants, or I think there was edit and or ARP on one of the installations, or from our revenue at Prairie Creek. Personally, again, not speaking for the board, but I've got concerns about financing those and how we really intend to pay for that long-term, especially if we're looking at other major initiatives out there. It ties us up for some duration of time. My preference would be to continue to pay for them through grants and other sources that don't create a debt for the department and the Prairie Creek. But I also understand the benefit in getting them done and getting it off the list and kind of moving towards the next project. I think that's still pretty preliminary. There's been some background work been
Right.
done, but I've not seen any formal proposals or anything for us to review yet. But wanted to make sure the rest of the board and the public was aware that's one of the
Yeah.
funding sources we're looking at is financing for
That's
those.
correct. That is correct.
And that's kind of talks about the same, any improvements that we look at the campground as well, is potential financing. And if this is something we've, historically Prairie Creek I don't believe has went that route, to my knowledge, but it's something that we can certainly look at as this board and the fiscal body for that. Any questions, discussion there? On to new business. We've got the YMCA pool contract. I know we talked a little bit about that last month. Probably need to be nailing them down either there in February or March to really get that established. I don't know if we've
Yes,
had discussion there.
That's correct. Nikki and I talked about it today, actually, and having it reviewed, and then have legal have their input on it as well, like they've had in the previous years, and then bring that before the board for questions and/or approval.
I would,
Carl,
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
were all the repairs made on Tui that, with that last vandalism at the end of the year?
Yes, yeah, we're fine. We're fine there. Yeah, little minor monies. It wasn't. I don't know. I can't remember right off, but wasn't a real large amount. But there were some small costs that was needed.
Okay.
Like I said, just from a operational standpoint, our regular costs that we spend with Bud and Bond on operation. I think one of the bigger things we didn't have last year was a vacuum, that we need to make sure we have that put in our plans this year, to have that at the start. I think that was the biggest thing that we didn't have. That's the day-to-day operation. That's a lot of the cleaning of the pool. And then the geese situation is still something that we got to figure out. That's just that's part of when people see when they come in the pool, walkway and things of that nature. We got to figure something out with that. So it's the city. It's on us, not really on the why. It's really on the city to get that worked out.
I also think that we need better security with the cameras and
Okay.
when the pool's closed.
Right.
And better door locks and,
Okay.
we need to just secure that facility better,
Okay.
so that doesn't happen again.
We may have to change our security cameras and go to with a different brand,
Yeah.
if need be, so that we got visual of not only just the pool area, but the whole ground itself, and see what's out there to upgrade.
And maybe have some sensor lights, so if somebody is on the property, boom, lights are on. You know what I mean? We don't have that there at all.
Okay.
Because there've been children, teenagers, whatever, that will jump over the fences and swim in the pool at night. So if we had lights that were on them, though, that might be a deterrent.
Okay.
It would be for me. So,
Me too.
So I guess we'll keep that on the agenda, hopefully have something in February, March here. Last new business item is truck purchase.
Yes, we in our budget we have our capital equipment line item. We did purchase one truck. Our fleets are kind of old. It's the fleets that's been there since I came in, and they were there beyond. So, trying to purchase a couple of vehicles each year to change out some of our vehicles is what I'm asking the board to look at. We can provide you with inventory of what we have in our shop right now, and then be able to look at changing out vehicles each year. Changing one or two, depending on what we spend our monies on. But it is in the budget for us to change out and purchase trucks. My truck was hit. I was hit in a pretty serious accident last Sunday. I'm lucky to be here. I avoided a T-bone, and right now it's been in the yard at Northwest Wrecker. I still don't know the damage. I did get a text by the insurance company, and then our insurance company, the guy, Brent Webster, was out of town. So as right now, my working truck is over in Northwest Wrecker, and it's been there since Sunday. I'm driving my car, my personal car right now. I've been in that for about a week. So, but we do need to have conversation about our vehicles and status on the ones that we have in our fleet. So,
Well, if we've got it in the budget there, I think that's something that we, as a board, would support, that we make sure that those are functional and working vehicles for the teams.
Yep.
I guess the only thing I'd add there is, I would hope that there's some collaboration between the different departments in the city, that if you've got a vehicle purchase, if sanitary's got a vehicle purchase, if
Right.
police or code enforcement's got a vehicle purchase, maybe there's some opportunity for
right.
some package discounts or some deals to be worked out there. Would
Okay.
probably be the other direction, is make sure we're working across teams
Right.
there.
Right.
Get best deal possible.
Yep. So, but I'm thankful, blessed to be here. The guy was speeding at a high rate of speed and was taken to jail for drinking and driving. So it was a split second decision for me to turn the truck. I tried to side swap, but I knew we was gonna bang. So
Glad you're okay.
yeah. So
Everything's good there.
yep. So.
Thank you, Lord.
Any other action items from the board or Carl? I don't want you to have to sit down and come back up and get something else.
Well, to be honest with you, from Sunday to now, I can sit up here all night and talk, because I'm thankful. So that's where my mind is at.
Okay. Any other events or approvals, requests from the public? Any names on your list, Nikki? No names? Nikki, you got anything else to add for us tonight? You got your winter coat on, your scarf. It's cold up here too, I can tell you right now. My toes are frozen.
I do have one thing to say. Nikki, I got something else to say. No, with Tani and Nikki, they really communicate well. Nikki's always calling and keep me informed on what's going on with outside people in terms of questions that they have for the park. Tani as well. And then we got Patty in the HR, and she's working with us to try to get all the job descriptions and stuff like that worked out. So I appreciate having the opportunity to work with those three to keep us going until we can get ourselves in a better situation. So thanks to both of you, Nikki and Tani, appreciate it. And now that we got Kelly on board, like we got a team that's ready to rock.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carl.
Well, before we get out of here, I want to thank Carl for all his hard work dealing with some adversity here with staffing. But I think Kelly's going to be a great addition, or a great shift.
Yep.
She's not an addition, I guess, because she's been with us.
The longest.
And then also want to thank Prairie Creek and your Friends of Prairie Creek, you guys' diligence, dedication in attending these meetings. It's important that you guys are here, and I encourage other public that's watching at home to come and join us as well. We haven't always agreed with you guys, and we've had some heated debates, but I think we're always moving in the right direction. So appreciate you guys being here and providing feedback. So. Any other discussions? I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We adjourn.
Turn on the heat.